So the first question I have is, how can I get my site to rank higher on Google? And this is essentially the question that encompasses what SEO is about. And it's important to remember that Google doesn't rank websites per se as a whole. It ranks pages and specific content for keywords that it finds and is optimized for. So one of the first things to do is, if you already have a website, is actually, let me go ahead and put this on so that way we know what question I'm answering. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do this one. All right. So with this, the best way to go is to connect your site to Google Search Console first. I'm not going to do a demo on that, but having the data in Google Search Console will let you know what is Google already finding your site for. So my site is very brand new. It was really fully actually launched August 17th of 2023. The date of this live, it's September 29th. And so you can see that, obviously for my brand name, I'm coming up. This is what I want to see. Marketing for coaches is something that is newer, and I'm kind of excited about because this is what's considered a non-branded keyword. I consider ITERATEOLOGY in my name to be more brand awareness. So I would expect to see more impressions for those, especially for ITERATEOLOGY. An impression is when your site is visible in search results. People can see it, or it's shown to a user. And if they click on it, that's how you earn the click there. And so your impressions matter because that's how many times you're showing up in the top 100 for that search term. And your average position is something to track, as well as your click-through rate, which is what the CTR stands for here. Because what Google will do is, whenever it detects a new page, it's like, okay, well, how should I be ranking this? And so it will serve it up, because they're constantly kind of adjusting and doing rank testing for things. And so, it got served up on, a page where somebody saw it. It didn't get clicked, so Google kind of filed that away. So that's how search engines work. And I'll come to some more of this later, as I kind of answer some of the other questions that we've got. But the way to really get your site to rank higher is to do your keyword research, first of all, because if you don't know what you're already ranking for, or have a plan, so if you've got a new site like mine, it's more about, what do I want to rank for? And so one way that you can do that is, going to Google and, what is a topic that you talk about? So I talk about SEO for coaches. And I'm not going to go super deep into keyword research because that's a whole other topic, but one way you can generate ideas for what you might want to rank for is doing what's kind of called the SEO ABC. So you come in, you type kind of like that broad main term. So if you're a health coach, that could be health coaching, and then you just do, A. And so you could see things that are being suggested for it, and then click, and then you can write down. I like to use my iPad, and I have Freeform up, so I can just kind of jot down and map any of the keyword ideas if I'm using this method. I typically don't, because I do use paid tools, but it's also another way that I can kind of get ideas if I get stuck looking for certain keywords or things like that. So you just take that right down, and then you do the same thing with B, and then C, And so like SEO coaching is one. It's like, because that's what I do. So I will take SEO coaching, but actually I'm going to do different since I've done this before a little bit. I'm going to go to SEO for coaches. And what you're seeing here, and actually let me turn this off, is I'm using a couple of different extensions. And I'll talk about those in a second. But for this, understanding SEO for coaches. So who's already ranking well for this? Organically. So when I talk about the organic results, I'm meaning things that don't have sponsors next to them. So if I scroll down to related search, oh, here we go. Here's a sponsored result. So this is something that they paid to have their information displayed here. And most people, care more about the organic results because you can't pay to get that rank. Some keywords have different placements for ads, which is why you may see some sponsored sometimes above the organic, but it'll always have that sponsored flag on it. You'll also see, do coaches need SEO? Different questions that people ask, as well as, related searches. So these are all good ways to kind of do some of that keyword research to find out like what are people actually searching for. Some of the data that you see here is, refresh this so that way it'll complete out the data I need. Some of the data you see here is through a Chrome plugin called Keyword Surfer. And this is telling me additional information like overall for her domain, how much monthly traffic she's likely bringing in from that. As well as for this page, how many words is it? And you can see that the things that tend to do best based on using this plugin that gives us this extra data point is that people are looking for longer articles on SEO and how to approach it. And that they are using, SEO for coaches a certain number of times on the page. Keyword density is something that you may have come across before. It doesn't actually matter when I talk about it. And this is, it takes us into kind of the next point of doing your keyword research to know what you're trying to rank for. The next step in that is to make sure that you've got high quality content that addresses those things. So what do I mean when I say high quality content? What I mean is you can see here that there's, ultimate guide, step-by-step beginner's guide. There's years in both of this because Google does care about relevant content or fresh content. And in the world of SEO that is constantly changing, fresh content definitely has some weight to it because you don't want to be following SEO advice. Oops, I did not mean to do that. You do not want to be following SEO advice for something that was working in 2014 because I guarantee you it's probably not going to be working as strongly now, if at all, just because a lot of the massive updates that Google has made to the search engine. For one thing, mobile responsiveness being part of your site is one of them. So high quality content shows it provides a good user experience. So if your site has a bunch of ads on it that causes a lot of the shifting in the content and it's just really hard to interact with, that's not a good experience. So those sites saw a major hit last September, December with some of the content updates that they did. Was it May? There were a lot of big changes last year. But you can use this to, like if I were to take this and write an SEO guide, which, spoiler alert, I am, is these are questions that I would want to write down of, okay, I'm writing on this topic. These are the questions people are showing up because this is all being based off of questions that, Google people are actually asking Google. And you can actually see that even though, this is the top rank, this is a question that's being answered by somebody that's lower. But again, we still have that kind of guide theme. So that can tell you what type of content ranks for this and what somebody might be looking for. And then, going down for all of this. And the more of these questions that you find relevant and can answer, because when people are searching, they have intentions behind their search. So creating content that answers that intention and then maybe takes them on that next step in the journey. So not just answering the question that they asked, but answering the question either behind the question or that they didn't know to ask, and then leading into like a strategic freebie or something so you can capture their email address. That is what high quality content is. And then you also want to make sure that your site is well structured. And what I mean by this is, one, it does need to be fast. And so this can determine like your theme, what builder you're using, if you're using WordPress, the amount of plugins and if they're up to date, and just the size of the overall plugin as well has a factor. You can optimize what you can so much, but at the end of it too, your site speed is also determined by your host and whether or not their servers are optimized to run whatever your web platform is in. Again, my specialty is in WordPress and Elementor, so that's the knowledge set I have. I actually, as of today, moved off of my shared Bluehost hosting and made the decision to move to set up my own account on Flywheel to move to their managed hosting, which means that their servers are optimized to run WordPress, already come with a lot of the security and the concerns that some people that warn you away from WordPress will use, which WordPress is if you want a lot of control, you can use a different platform. If you care a little bit less about control, I know what I do, and I know that with the way I want to run things, I need that level of control. That may or may not apply to your business. That's why the website platform matters a little less than the actual speed of the hosting, because that does matter. Now, when I talk about site structure, you'll notice I'm in my settings for my permalinks in WordPress. Big red flag here, guys. If you have a site that is already ranking or you've been producing content, mainly if it's already ranking, if you've been producing content and you haven't really seen a lot of rank, there's not as much risk to changing your URL structure, which is basically here's your domain, and then the URL structure is everything that happens after that domain. Don't do this if you have rank, because you will confuse Google, because suddenly what they have as, hey, this is a good page, it's like you changed the address on them and forgot to tell them about it. That's what that's like. So don't do this if you have pages that are already ranking. But if you don't, the best structure is to use your category, because generally your category is going to be something that you're going to talk about, which would be an SEO group that you're going after. So in my case, SEO for coaches would be the category, or even if I just did SEO as the category to have something shorter, and then having the post name after it, because then that gets some of that information to kind of start linking through to Google. And from an analytics standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to kind of slice and dice and see what is going. And before I get too deep into this, I am going to double check that I did not make the same mistake and that I am, in fact, live in places. Let me see. Yep. Okay, I am. So let me close out of that before I cause too many issues. All right. Okay. So site structure. If you are planning to update your website next year, this is a good time to incorporate that structure. A lot of times, and I'm saying this as somebody that does design and do websites myself as well, that a lot of people out there will be like, okay, yeah, I do SEO on websites. What they mean is that they may use this structure to make it more SEO friendly. They may make a mobile responsive site, um, which I'll explain what I mean to that in a second when I get to the mistakes that I usually see people making. Um, they may do this, they may install an SEO plugin, and that's kind of the extent of doing SEO on a site or creating an SEO friendly site. Um, that usually means more the technical side of it is that it is SEO friendly. Most of the defaults, if you use WordPress, are either the month and name or the day and name. So by having that year you like hard coded into the URL, I'm also very guilty of looking to see when was this published, because since that's the default for a lot, if it's something that was published in 2016, that might make me biased to think that, oh gosh, has it been updated? Because the majority of people don't update their content. They just instead create either, if you're doing um, a marketing guide for coaches in 2022 and you did one in 2023 and you're treating those as separate posts, you're actually not really helping yourself. You'd be better off focusing on one of those and keeping it up to date instead of reinventing the wheel or recreating. Even if it's just duplicating and copying it, you want to kind of go back to the original post that Google already has the URL for and is ranking for. So we have checked Google Search Console to know what we're ranking for. We have done our keyword research. We've created high quality content. We made sure that our site is fast and well structured. The last step of that is you want to ethically and naturally work on cultivating backlinks to your site through things like social media. So if people are sharing your things on social media, that provides a backlink. If people, if you go on a podcast, generally they'll ask for, hey, here is there a link to your website, or sometimes they'll let you offer a freebie or something that's relevant to your topic, to the audience. Check with them before you do that, of course. But again, having those other sources linking into your website is how Google actually got started as an academic paper citation engine. And the way they determine which sites had the most authority, because that's so Google grades on experience, expertise, and creating high quality content that's authoritative, or high quality content is how you demonstrate that expertise. The next part of that, the EAT acronym that you may hear in relation to SEO, is authority. So the way Google determines that your site has good authority is that there's a lot of sites that are linking into your site. So you write a great marketing guide. Well, maybe you have a friend that serves a different niche that is like, here's how you can market. And as long as like relevant, like the more relevant the linking site's content to what you do, the better, because again, it's about quality rather than quantity, which is what anybody trying to sell you backlinks is generally trying to do. And that, that was brought crashing down for a lot of people with definitely the December update with Google. So once you do that, it's maintain your content and get more backlinks to it. And then as you rank more, as the more pages on your site start to rank well, your trust elevates in Google's eyes, as well as having things like being at an HTTPS with your secured certificate is a must. You also need to make sure that all of like your images and things are also at that same secured web address, and having a privacy policy, terms and conditions, even disclaimers and things. Those are all trust signals to Google that like, hey, this site's legitimate. It's